Chapter 6. The flames rose quickly, turning the peaceful village into a scene of chaos. Smoke billowed into the cold sky, choking the air and clouding Edward Ashford's vision. He stood frozen for a moment, gripped by indecision as Captain Hadley's soldiers shouted orders and villagers screamed in protest.
"Move aside, boy!"
A soldier barked, shoving Edward as he stormed past with a torch in hand. Edward stumbled but caught himself, his heart pounding against his ribs. Another cottage had been set alight, the thatched roof igniting with a sickening roar. Edward's mind screamed for him to act. This was not justice. He turned sharply toward Captain Hadley, who stood near the centre of the square, barking orders like a general at war. Edward approached quickly, his steps determined.
"Captain!"
he called. Hadley turned, his brow furrowing in irritation.
"What is it, Ashford?"
"This must stop,"
Edward said, his voice louder than he'd intended.
"There are no rebels here. These are innocent people."
Hadley scoffed, his eyes cold.
"Innocent? You think these peasants don't know where the rebels are hiding? They shield them, boy. They lie. They fight in shadows and expect no consequence."
Edward clenched his fists.
"Burning their homes will only breed more hatred. If there were no rebels before, there will be after this."
Hadley stepped closer, his voice low and menacing.
"Watch your tongue, Mr. Ashford, or I'll have you sent back to England in chains for insubordination. Sir Robert may tolerate your softness, but I will not."
Edward stared at Hadley, the man's arrogance and cruelty twisting something deep within him.
"This is wrong,"
he said quietly, but with conviction. Hadley sneered.
"Your conscience has no place here."
He turned away, barking another order.
"Round up the men. Any who resist, arrest them."
Edward's breath came short, his vision narrowing as the scene around him escalated. A group of soldiers had cornered several villagers, men Edward recognized from the market square. Among them was Brigid's older brother, Edward O'Donoghue, his hands clenched into fists as he stood his ground.
"You'll not take me!"
Kieran shouted, his voice filled with defiance. A soldier lunged for him, but Kieran struck first, his fist connecting hard with the man's jaw. The soldier stumbled back, and chaos erupted. Edward watched as the villagers began to resist, some fighting, others fleeing for the woods. The soldiers were quick and brutal, striking down anyone who stood in their path. Edward's feet moved before his mind could catch up. He ran toward the fray, his voice rising above the noise.
"Stop this madness."
But no one listened. He pushed his way through the chaos until he reached Kieran, who was grappling with a soldier. Edward grabbed Kieran's arm, pulling him back.
"You can't win this fight,"
Edward shouted.
"Run while you still can."
Kieran glared at him, his face streaked with dirt and anger.
"Why should I trust you, Englishman?"
"Because I'm the only one here trying to save you,"
Edward replied, his voice desperate. For a moment, Kieran hesitated. Then, with a sharp nod, he turned and shouted to the others in Irish. The villagers broke away, fleeing toward the trees with what little they could carry. Brigid appeared from the smoke, her face streaked with soot, her green eyes blazing with fury.
"Edward!"
she called, running toward him.
"What are you doing?"
"Buying time."
Edward said, his breath ragged.
"Go! Get your people out of here."
"What about you?"
Brigid demanded. Edward shook his head.
"I'll hold them off as long as I can."
Brigid stared at him, the firelight dancing in her eyes. For a moment Edward thought she might argue, but instead she grabbed his hand, squeezing it tightly.
"Thank you,"
she said softly. Then she turned and disappeared into the smoke, following her people into the woods. Edward stood alone in the village square, the soldiers regrouping around him. Captain Hadley approached, his face a mask of rage.
"What have you done, Ashford?"
Hadley growled. Edward met his gaze without flinching.
"What you wouldn't, sir, the right thing."
Hadley's lip curled.
"You're a fool."
He gestured to two soldiers.
"Seize him."
Edward didn't resist as the soldiers grabbed his arms, binding his wrists tightly with rope. As they dragged him toward the waiting horses, Edward looked back at the burning village. The flames roared higher, consuming homes and livelihoods, but in the distance he saw movement, Brigid and her people slipping into the safety of the forest. He closed his eyes, the smoke stinging his lungs. For the first time in his life, Edward Ashford knew exactly where he stood. He had chosen his side, and though it might cost him everything, he did not regret it.